Hi, this is Scott Dunn, Rocket 9 Solutions Agile Coach and Trainer. We've been going through questions from friends in the class, the Product Owner, Scrum Master, and Agile Leadership class. Today's question comes from Casper Chizarito Romero from Maryville, California. Casper asks, is it preferred to have a Scrum Master report into IT development, PMO, or the business? Doesn't matter. Deep thoughts, Casper. Doesn't matter. Does any of this matter? So let's just think about for a moment, what are these structures even in place for? So if I'm growing a business, I have things we need to get done. And as those areas grow, there's other people in those areas doing that stuff. And then we begin to say, are we coordinating that work well? Are we managing that work well? And are those people on the side, are they growing? Do they feel like they're being taken care of? You know, they're giving their time and energy and lives to these companies. Do they feel like they're getting what they want back in exchange for that? The more competitive the environment, the more that matters. The less competitive, hey, if it's 25% unemployment, be happy to have a job, right? That kind of thing. So I think in general, it's been a very competitive environment for software. There's a drought of $250,000 250,000 software developers. They are probably getting paid $250,000. And so I'm mindful of that. So what are those areas responsible for in general terms in the business? IT development in general is to build solutions with the right technology and deliver what they say they will for the most part, and provide all the areas that would be expected concerns for that it's stable, that it's secure, that it's scalable, that it's using the appropriate technology, that the price point is correct for all that stuff. So I've seen plenty of variations and all that, but that's in general what we're having our software folks do. I want something built, you guys build it, either because we want more control or we think it's cheaper. We're going to go ahead and have internal people build that instead of just solely outsource. Now, we've had companies who literally tried to outsource everything they could so that someone else was accountable for that stuff and they could really hold them to it. It's tougher when they're internal employees. It's tougher, all the liabilities that go along with that. So that's probably what you're expecting from IT. And the PMO is in general charter to manage and deliver against scope and budget and date, and general expectations, clarify, resolve issues, resolve blocks and impediments with that kind of stuff, communicate, lots of communication going up and outward, cross teams, coordination across teams with the management. So I always know, hey, it's just being taken care of. That's what I would look at project management and say that's what they're kind of in general responsible for. And the business is the business. This is what we do, trying to get results. We have product market fit. We're delivering value at a certain price point that makes sense, and there's all sorts of additional things of value add on top of that, services and partnerships and implementation perhaps, and lots of things on the business side. But those businesses are usually segmented into certain areas that are necessary piece. We have a product, we have a service, but along with that, we have a sales group that drives that. We have a marketing group that lets the world know about that product and makes the differentiation clear and compelling. That story around some of that. I kind of just make sure that we're appropriately managing the fiduciary aspect of this, that we can pay these bills and that we're managing margins that are expected across these groups and budgets across these groups and things like that. So the outside of that, I think it gets very particular. So I'm probably not going to say the business because they have their own jurisdiction in the areas that they're responsible for. And it's probably not marketing, although marketing in Agile is great. Sales, I've seen sales groups use Scrum, and that's great. You're probably talking about delivering projects. So the fact that you're delivering software projects means you're probably going to sit either in software or in the project space with the PMO. And PMO sometimes is in IT and sometimes they're outside IT. So the people commonly look and say, yeah, they probably are project management type folks because this is project work. The Scrum Master isn't actually coding, they're not actually testing, they're not doing architecture, et cetera, not doing requirements. So they must be responsible for delivery. And so they will be in the PMO. Or we'll see project managers converted from a traditional waterfall project manager to a Scrum Master. And I think that does make sense on paper. But you got to think that there's almost like product market fit in terms of these jobs. I'm in a certain job because I'm good at that thing of what's expected. So if I'm a software developer, I'm good at learning. I'm good at building things. I'm good at debugging things. I'm good at thinking abstractly about how these things all come together. So it's hard when they say, hey, software guy, I need you to like lead a project, or hey, let's promote you to management, because those skill sets are different, and neither's right or wrong. They're just different. So project managers, traditionally, I've seen plenty of them, and I've been one as a PMP, and was a project manager for a number of projects in a traditional environment. So when I look at that, I'm usually, some people would say I'm a driver. I'm making sure people get their stuff done. I'm managing them. And also when I was a manager, there's times I felt like I'm babysitting them. Did you go and talk to Jerry? That seems silly, but it's true. It's frustrating at times. So, and partly that is because there's issues in the workplaces. There's issues with problem employees. The number 2 most reported problem among IT, over 2,000 hours of research, is unresolved problem employees. Everyone knows that Bob doesn't do squat around here, and no one's doing anything about it, right? And partly because management's hands are tied. Unless Bob hits somebody in the face, we can't do much. It's really, really, really hard to manage people out. You have to build a whole case around some of that, and document performance improvement plans, all that stuff. So look, let's just have a project manager drive the project and offload that onto them and make sure those people get those things done, make sure they go and talk to whoever they need to talk to, make sure the vendor did what the vendor said, make sure the contracts are actually lined up correctly, hold them to the wall that they didn't do those things. And there's a mindset that goes with that. There's an attention to detail with that. There's almost like this endless energy to drive that. An issue of not being bothered that other people get upset about that. And I think in all those areas, it's just very different from what we might see with the Scrum Master and what they're doing. So partly they're looking at, do we enable the team to figure this out themselves, or do we just make sure it gets taken care of and we manage that stuff? So the project management group, if that's kind of their ethos, if that's it, and it makes sense, right? Those are people we hired to drive these things and make sure we get stuff done. And people don't change that much. They really don't. The personalities don't. You become more and more of who you already are. I'm a strong believer in that. And we can have development plans and we can talk about issues. They're wired the way they're wired from a personality standpoint. They have the issues that they have probably from childhood, and good or bad, right? That's what it is. So sometimes it's wonderful if you have some crazy out of control. I know people that excel at project rescue because they're like firefighters, getting in there, directing people, driving, making things happen, getting results, showing it right away. And that's great. But if we're doing some project, the last thing I'd want to do is drive people in this complex world where we have to figure out what we need to do. And it's not driven by a project plan. It's like, I don't know, we need to figure out how that would look or what that would look like. I think humans are incredibly complex. And I think we miss out on the best of them when we kind of have this driving type approach to that. So for simple work, I think they might sit in the PMO and that kind of works. I think for a lot of that complex, uncertain work, that's maybe not the best place to put in a PMO. And I don't know. We'd have to do a cultural survey of your PMO to see what makes them tick. Here's a good question to ask them. What's the best part of your day? What's the worst part of your day? It's hard for people to make that stuff up. The best part of your day is getting results. Yeah, you're driving people to get results. And that really does feel good. You have a list of things. You check those boxes at the end of the day, and that feels good. Was that awesome quality stuff? Is the customer delighted? I don't know. We got those boxes checked, and we got those reports delivered. And okay. If the best part of your day is like, you know what, I just love the team really came together on this and I saw them all chip in. Well, that's a very different thing. Oh, I saw that, we asked all these people this question and I was amazed how creative they were. And the best idea, the most innovative idea came from Todd, and he had just joined this team. So again, that's very different. So we can ask those 2 questions and see what they come up with. But in general, I'm probably going to say that if they've been chartered for a while as a PMO, if they've been doing their job for a while for PMO, they've had success in that way of handling things for a while, then the Scrum Master role is so different, it's probably not going to fit. And an expert in this field said that she felt that maybe half the traditional project managers aren't good fits for the Scrum Master role. And I've seen that they're probably be about right from my experience. So that leaves us with software. But again, are they charged to deliver? I think they could figure out that stuff and work in a way, because there's so many great guardrails with Scrum. You have to ignore whole parts of Scrum to really screw it up. You really do. You have to not do your sprint review in order for people to not know where we're at. You have to not meet your definition of done, to think that we're done, but we're not really done. You have to have separate dev teams and QA teams to leave it as my work and your work, and to throw things over the wall for tests to figure out. You can't do that if they're part of the same team. It's really, really hard to do that. And you need to not have stakeholders at the sprint review for them to be completely out of touch with where the team's at, right? Rather than have status reports. So all that traditional way of managing goes away because we trust this empirical process. That is, the priorities are the right priorities because the product owner is the right product owner, and they were there in the planning meeting saying, here's the things I want. The team's able to say what they can do and actually does it because they've been sitting there together, working together as a team for a number of sprints. They know what they can get done. They're open, they collaborate really well, they talk about their issues in the retrospective, they talk about the work items and what it's going to take to get them done in the product backlog refinement meeting. So all those things are set up for these. So I think even without this tradition or history or structures in place in software to get it done, I think Scrum allows you with those guardrails to figure that out, which in all fairness, this is not your question. This is probably someone else's question. So I hope someone comes and asks a question so I can feel justified in answering it. But I'm going to go ahead and say this anyways, even though you didn't ask, and you're going to like it. Here's my thought on it. This might be part of why Kanban struggles at times. I think Kanban's great. I think Kanban's fabulous. Lots of good stuff in there. But what I see most of the time is Kanban doesn't go anywhere because they put Post-its on the wall, and Post-its on the wall isn't Kanban. It's Post-its on a wall. So not actively managing your queues, not managing flow, not looking at cycle time and lead time, not limiting your work in progress. They don't do any of that stuff, and they don't have the insights on how to do that well. They didn't learn that. They just put Post-its on the wall. Scrum is so simple, not easy, but so simple that if you're breaking rules or not. It's clear we're screwing up because we're not doing the retrospective and we haven't had one for 3 months. Or we had retrospectives and we filed all the results over on SharePoint and no one ever looked at them, right? You got to really blatantly just be doing stuff wrong, but it's simple enough to know that you're doing it wrong. Anyways, that's more of a side note. Maybe that's why Kanban has a harder time. I think it's great, but just hasn't had the adoption that Scrum has. So I hope that that's of some help to you about knowing where does the Scrum Master fit. For all my friends out there, comment below, where have you seen the Scrum Masters fit in your organization? Does that work well? What are some of the issues and conflict with that? I think in the end, I'm with Craig Larman, who says that really Scrum and Agile are organizational redesign. And if we don't redesign any of this stuff, you're really going to be hurt with the existing structures, metrics, and policies in place. And I'm leveraging those three terms from the Agile Leadership Journeys, Certified Agile Leadership class, that culture follows structure, is what Larman said. I think you leave the structure in place, the behavior is going to stay the same, shockingly. So hope that helps, Casper, and anyone else. Comment below if that doesn't or does answer your question or what your experience has been. We'd love to hear from you, and I hope that helps you guys all on your journey. Have a great day.